Live from Bendigo, this is Paul Murray Live, Our Town.
G'day Australia and g'day Bendigo! Ripping, how are we tonight? Welcome to the most beautiful part of Victoria. We are physically at the Central Deborah Gold Mine. We have spent a spectacular weekend in Bendigo. The people are wonderful, the buildings are beautiful, and tonight we are going to make television history because the Fat Controller is going to drive a tram. I will drive a tram tonight. And we've got a very special guest. I'm looking forward to all of this. This facility here, the sunset, by the way, is absolutely glorious where you are, where we are right now. The chance here is to be able to go and see a gold mine as it was. We are in one of the tin sheds that have seen plenty of action over the years, and the good people of Bendigo have been nothing but kind and wonderful to us the entire time. So we're going to celebrate this city, we're going to celebrate you guys, and we're going to have a wonderful night together. But first, as always, let's talk about the news. And a strange thing happened this weekend. Now, no, I am not squeezing a stone to get one little more drop of blood out of it, but remember what they said about the American election over and over again. Press play.
New poll has Kamala Harris and Donald Trump locked in a dead heat.
Latest Wall Street Journal poll.
New Washington Post poll out this morning.
Harris up by 4.
Deadlocked race.
A tied race.
According to most polls in the United States, this election is very close and could go either way.
And Bendigo, was the result a tie? No, I didn't think so. Who won again? Trump. And how big? Big, I thought so that'd be the case. Well trained, everyone. Well done. You get a fish and you get a fish and you get a fish. Well done. Well, of course, the people who were far more accurate than the polls, and I said this at the time as a person who spent way too much reading them, is let's have a look at the bookies. Now, the bookie, the red line, of course, is Trump. The blue line was Biden, who was, I think this is his heart rate, actually. He was dead for many months. And then they gave him a little pack-a-whacker, and then he died again. And then, of course, Kamala took over in the pantsuit, and joy and love and all the rest of it. And then she pissed $1 billion against a wall, and he kicked her ass. Is that good education about politics? All right, excellent. Now, as you can see, they were pretty clear. So I think you might know where I'm heading, because it won't surprise you that when we go on the road every now and then on the Friday or the Saturday night, after the chats have finished, after the politics has been discussed, there'll be a little bit of a pull out of some of those sports bet apps or the Tab app or the Ladbrokes app, and we'll be betting on dogs in South Africa at 2 o'clock in the morning. But while we were doing so, we noticed, what are the odds for the upcoming federal election? Is it a line ball or not? Well, remember, according to many of those that speak politically for a living, they say that Australia's definitely headed towards a minority government. They say that there's a most chance that Labor ends up being there because, as I bored you before about the Teals and all the rest of it. But have a look right now. Sportsbet has the Coalition as favourites after the next election. Now, that is an expectation that they will form government with a minority, but Labor is now starting to blow out. Now, this is not me saying that jump on one or the other, but it is fascinating that the indicators that the polls are telling us ever so tight, but it'll fall Labor's way. These things tell us ever so tight, but it'll fall the Coalition's way. The TAB, their Tab app, is exactly the same, where they are saying by an even bigger margin, they think that the Coalition is going to get there, or with greater certainty. Now, again, the way that all of these bookies work, and certainly in Australia, you should remember, one of these companies said that Shorten was going to win in 2019. They even paid out a couple of days before, thinking that was going to be the result. But a fascinating little look here, which means some of the outer analysis about Australian politics is maybe something we should be paying attention to. Let's not be surprised by what results end up turning up. Let's look at what might be coming. And of course, there is one person who has been saying by the Financial Review, and he's a former Labor senator, that there could well end up be such a significant change after just one term of this mob that, yes, Dutton and the Coalition, they'd take some Teals, they'd take plenty of Labor. Labor would lose potentially to people like the Greens. So we are on our way to not just a tight result, but according to the bookies, a change of government after one term. Now, Bendigo, I know many people who vote here vote opposite than this room, but how does this room feel about a one-term Albo government? That might be the case. Which brings me to what I have been thinking about ever since the Trump election, and I've been slowly thinking about over months, which is What is this next federal election going to be about? Now, we know what the issues are. We know that the difficulties that people have had when it comes to cost of living becomes pretty clear. We know that on multiple polls, in multiple ways, we're told that the majority of the country thinks that we're headed in the wrong direction. But as we have a look at the candidates that are going to be up and available for government, I want to credit a very dear friend of mine who's been seeding this idea for a little while, but in the past couple of days, he's poured as much fertiliser on it as possible, and it's now starting to grow as my central theory of the case, which is politics often is something that we talk about in relation to demographics like age or sex, or for some it'll end up being religion or race. I certainly think that what we saw in the United States was a realignment of things where it was your economic circumstance that was the ultimate determinant of your vote. Can I offer another theory, though? That I think in many ways this election is going to be about, do you want the state to control your life, or do you want to control your life? On what sorts of issues do you want to be left alone? On what sorts of things do you want to be trusted as a parent or as a grandparent? Now, again, traditionally, Australia can have a conversation about collective responsibility, which traditionally has been of the left, and personal responsibility, which has been of the right. But this is something different when I talk about that sense of control. Think about between now and the election, and certainly the past 3 years since our election, about the types of politicians who want to ban something, or change something, or limit something, or overfund something, or restrict something. And then think about the world before these people existed, say in 2022, or let's even go back to 2010. We don't have to get in the Wayback Machine and get out the Swan Lager and pretend that we've just won the America's Cup in 1983. We can have this conversation about our 21st century, which is about your want to control your life. And it's not a conversation about oppression versus freedom. It's about your right to make decisions about your life. Now, at times, I've disappointed plenty of people with my views on all sorts of different issues, but I always turn around and say things like gay marriage or euthanasia, like your choice to say no shouldn't rule out somebody's ability to say yes, and vice versa, all right? We want a system that says, well, I'm not planning on using this system or that system. I want the availability of somebody who wants to go and do it to go and do it. But as soon as the state starts turning around and saying, look, at this fork in the road, we're going to take away choice. We're going to tell you there's one choice that needs to be made over others. And I think that's going to be a massive factor at this election. The first signs of people in and around this issue is going to be particularly men between 35 and 55. These are men who have been brought up in a left-wing education system. These are people who may well have paired off into partnerships or started to have children. They may well have entered the workforce, owned their own business, had an ABN, paid the taxes, filled out the forms, and you can see that they are starting to track in a very different direction than where they were even 3 years ago. Now, again, for the smartasses that are watching, or the people that are thinking, oh, he's just trying to pull a Trump. There is no way that you pull a Trump in the Australian system. We don't vote for a single person. We vote for local MPs. We vote for parties. There's the control of the Senate. But I will be fascinated to see at this election about the types of policies that are put in front of us, because I'm not entirely sure that Australians are desperate to hear that there's a government planning to spend more money than they did last time on a problem that will only be exactly the same as it was before they threw more money at it. I have a feeling that we're going to have an attraction to politicians who are going to say, hey, we're going to try to get out of your way. Imagine that as a 33-day election campaign where you don't have an announcement a day, you have a promise every day, which I'm going to get out of the way. I'll do my best to, within responsible targets, pull back on a whole collection of things like regulations, which brings us to why it's so important that we have fought as hard as we have and talked about it for as long as we have. But you will have heard the news today, Bendigo, that the plan to censor the internet is dead. Finally dead. Now, as you know, the plan for all of this was that the government wanted to decide that you should only be allowed to post things on your social media that are approved officially by the government, the stamp of truth from the same people who, of course, always tell us that down is up and left is right and that all sorts of things don't quite make the sense that they used to. Here in part was the media excited today about this stupid plan finally hitting the wall.
A bill aimed at cracking down on misinformation and disinformation on the internet has been pulled by the federal government.
Labor has dumped its controversial misinformation bill.
The Albanese government has scrapped its controversial misinformation bill that...
They all look so disappointed, don't they? Yes, but it's happened, right? Why? Because, as we've shown you all the way through, and I explained to everyone last week, the numbers just weren't there in the Senate. However, the final blow comes from the Greens, who say it didn't go far enough. And that, boo, I'm with you. And that is back to that central conversation I was saying about how much control versus how much freedom. It's not just, in this case, the Labor Party who put forward a decision when it comes to misinformation. Remember, Jackie Lambie said it didn't go too far. It didn't go far enough. On some levels, the Teals didn't think that it went far enough. And the Greens didn't think that it went far enough. And all of that's on the ballot paper, and everyone should remember that. Everyone should remember that at one of the most fundamental choices of our time, there was a very significant chunk of Australian politics who may well end up deciding the next federal government because they are the ones with the power in a minority government who wanted to go harder, wanted to go further. Of course, there are those who fought it hard and hard from day one. Pauline Hanson and One Nation, Ralph Babbitt and the United Australia Party, eventually, of course, the Liberal Party. But we all knew the second that we first saw this, that this was not okay. Never forget that Labor didn't let it get defeated in the Senate. They pulled it before it could get defeated. And in part, remember what one of their key motivations were. What was that word they used over and over again when the 60-40 support for the Voice became 60-40 hell no, including here in lefty Victoria? What was that M word they said over and over again?
Misinformation.
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 The misinformation which is there.
Some misinformation.
Now, another issue that you've got to get to and inevitably talk about is the economic scenario. Cost of living, we all know how painful cost of living can be and is for plenty of people right now. We know it when it comes to people that are trying to pay off a house, find a house to rent, people who are, of course, everyone who has to go to the shops to buy, inconvenient stuff like food, or, of course, power prices, which were supposed to be down by $2.75 permanently by next year, right? Never forget that at the upcoming one. Well, what about this from the analysis of the numbers that are around at the moment from the Bureau of Statistics? And this is the coalition who did it, but still. Our living standards are the worst since 1959 right now, i.e. your ability with the amount of money that you make each week, month or year and your ability to pay for life in Australia. It's the worst since 1959. Now, OK, you're immediately going, well, hang on, what about the 90s with 17% interest rates and what about that thing in the 70s and that thing in the 90s? It's about that overall package, though, about how much money is coming in versus how much money is going out. And households are suffering the worst decline in living standards since the 1950s, with a fall in real disposable income eclipsing that of the last 4 recessions, including the ones of the 1970s or even the COVID pandemic. The analysis of the official government statistics shows that the current cost of living crisis has hit households twice as hard as the 1901 and 1982-83 recessions, and significantly more sharply than any period dating back to 1959. So I feel there might be a size 9 boot that is coming for those that are currently in power. I've got a feeling it might be steel-capped, and I might have a feeling that it will kick the Prime Minister so hard in the arse that he'll ask for an upgrade because he'll be that high in the air. And we certainly know when it comes to an upgrade, Albo, this bloke loves an upgrade, but can I talk about somebody else who loves the sweet life as well? This is the Gender Equality Ambassador. Did you read about this today? Where this gender, if you've never met this person, they love spending other people's money, telling us how bad everything is. Have a look.
Hello, I'm Stephanie Copus-Campbell, Australia's new Ambassador for Gender Equality. I'm incredibly honoured to take on this role as the lead international advocate for Australia's commitment to gender equality and the human rights of women and girls and persons of diverse gender identities.
What? Anyway, this person, in their time representing us on all of that stuff, has spent, how's this, $335,000 on taxpayer-funded trips around the world, including to multiple conferences where, of course, they turn around and collectively always conclude that Australia is the worst ever. Talk about other people's money, other people's priorities, and don't forget what this Prime Minister has previously turned around and said is to be his priority after this election, which is, among other things, for us to host an international climate conference. I think the Australian people might be somewhere else, and we'll be with them the whole way along. Bendigo, this is a beautiful place, and let's celebrate it for the rest of this hour, including the opportunity for us to jump on a tram, and yes, the big fella drives a tram. Here it is, some trams in Bendigo. Roll a tape. Bendigo has got so many beautiful buildings and features and things like this fountain, which was first put up in 1881. And the best way to see them is to travel on a bit of history yourself. Let's ride a tram. All right, so tell us about trams in Bendigo. How far does it go back?
It's a pretty amazing story. So I'll take you back to 1890. The first ever tram in Bendigo was actually a battery-powered tram, so ahead of their time. Amazing. And that's about as cool and as sexy as that story gets, Paul. 1972, when they tried to shut down the trams here in Bendigo. Absolute public outrage that trams were getting pulled off the tracks here.
So why does Bendigo love its trams? I mean, this is beautiful, but why do you think that Bendigo loves its trams?
Without sounding too cliche, it's part of the DNA. So when you think about Bendigo, you think about gold and trams, and we look at the vistas of our beautiful city, and the trams and the story and connectivity, and there's quite a romantic part of it. And I grew up here, and I can't ever picture Bendigo without having a tram rally down the main street.
I love you. It is infectious, your enthusiasm for it. So this tram, is this one that has ridden these lines for a long time? Is it from somewhere else, built from scratch? Tell me about what we're riding in now.
So we're riding on tram number 19, which is a California combination tram. So about early World War I, so about 1916 this tram. So started its life in Melbourne, and then we got a lot of our trams second-hand here. So probably in the 30s and 40s it came to here, and we were stoked to have it here because, it was a pretty, even though it was second-hand, it's a pretty special tram. And I look at the detail, the woodwork, the finishing, the lights. They used to build things well back in the day.
And that's one of the many reasons why people want to ride them and love them, is that, as you say, everything from the leather straps, the leather seats, as you say, through to the brass. Give us an idea about what it takes to keep these things on the road.
Yeah, so part of our organisation, so we run the trams. Trams are really expensive things to run, so which we lose money running the tourist tram each year. So the way we offset that, we've created a social enterprise or manufacturing divisions.
Who has the biggest smiles? Kids that have never been on them, or people who remember them from a long time ago?
A bit of both, and I think that's what makes trams special. Everyone kind of has some connection, and I don't know, there's trams or trains, kids they're like a magnet, I reckon. But yeah, someone's always got some romantic story about some tram anywhere in the world, and it kind of brings them back to those memories.
Now, of course, I'm fully licensed and accredited. Can I drive it?
Of course, we'll give you a go.
Yes! Then drive a tram! God love you. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Cheers, mate.
It was fun, and I'm now fully accredited, and Mum, I've got a backup career now. So that's good. Finally, a real job to fall back on. Matthew Evans is a man who's represented this area in lots of different ways. He looks forward to doing so in the federal parliament, the next federal election. Both the Liberal Party and the National Party are running, of course, against the current Labor MP here. But Matt, I wanted to say, firstly, g'day and welcome to you. Matthew Evans, everybody. How are you?
Thanks very much.
All right. Former Deputy Mayor. Before we get into the overt politics, it's a place that is special. What makes Bendigo special? Why is it a place that you've decided to plonk the family?
Well, I think if you look at the people in this room, it's the people and it's the community. And my wife is the Bendigonian, and we decided that when we first moved to Bendigo that this is the place that we wanted to raise our family. Great communities, great families that run massive, wonderful small businesses as well. Great economy as well. But the thing I love about is just the community. I'm involved with a couple of sporting clubs, the Golden Square Football Netball Club and the Strathfield Say Jets in the cricket. They're just wonderful people, but it's the people of not just Bendigo but Central Victoria that just make it all worthwhile.
And you've sat on council before, you've been a deputy mayor before. Backwards and coming forwards when they want to tell you what they really think?
Yeah, absolutely. It's always about sticking to the 3 Rs, but also just managing people, ratepayers' money responsibly, and but also in many respects just representing the community as fully. There's some amazing things that we did at local government to serve our community, particularly coming out of COVID. But like all things, you've just got to put the community first.
This seems like a place that, again, from breakfast in the morning to the late nights, like it's a place that's buzzing, right? Met plenty of tradies in the past few days who, doing pretty damn well. All sorts of people, right? Give us an idea, though, about some of the people who struggle on the edges or the places where people need a little bit of help.
Yeah, I think for a lot of regional communities, and it's probably similar, but in particular to Bendigo, but right across Central Victoria and communities like Castlemaine, Kyneton, even up as far as Rochester, there are a lot of families that are really struggling, a lot of businesses that are struggling. And when we talk about these headline topics of cost of living and the impacts on inflation, when you actually chat to people about those impacts, for example, earlier this year I was in Maldon, the first notable town, and a business there spoke about the 30% increase in the cost of bacon. And that was just on bacon alone. But then the next thing was what they tried to do to not pass that cost on to their customers, because Maldon's a small town, it's a proud community, but they're the sorts of people that do feel the cost of living crunch.
How important is it that when somebody does represent the community or gets a chance to go to Melbourne for state politics or Canberra for federal politics, that they're willing to not just stand up and to give the speech, but to stand in front of the biggest names from the biggest city and say, no, we're not going to cop this? Because big swathes of regional Victoria are being basically steamrolled by the state government when it comes to things like the renewable energy rollout. What's your promise to people in this room or maybe watching that you're not just going to turn up in the local paper, whinge here, but you're going to be able to look, say, a Prime Minister in the eye and say, oi, not on my watch?
Well, one of the things I've learned on local government is that local government is the closest level of government to the people, and that in the 4 years that I had that opportunity to do that, it underscored the most important thing, and the thing that I can absolutely promise is that I will put the community first, because if you do not put the community first, you get turfed out. And I feel that, as we've seen on your program tonight already, the consequences when you do not put the community first and what matters really to them first and foremost on the agenda.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, so please disagree if you wish. But what about my thesis at the start of the show about this idea that for many people, I don't think it's going to be about the announcements of the day and the promise of the next 3 years. What about, do you feel any change in the Australian political population that for many things, the best promise you can make is, I'll get out of the way?
I do agree with that, certainly. I think a lot of people are more values-based these days, particularly amongst young voters as well, but right across the board. And I think, again, it underscores that point that if you're focused on what really matters to people and just say, look, at the end of the day, my community is the most important thing, what happens in our community, and also if something's playing out federally or even globally, and we've seen that in other contexts as well, the consequences if you lose touch of your community and what actually has an impact on that, I think that's...
They'll flush you pretty quickly.
Absolutely. So, and again, I think a lot of us, and even my Nationals colleague as well, we're pretty much on common sense politics and very much putting the community first. And I guess right across the board, what we've heard is that when you're worrying about other things that are not the bread and butter issues, it leaves people behind.
Yes, I don't imagine you're going to be suggesting a change to the Constitution anytime soon about any issue distracting on that for a year or so. Thank you so much, Matt. Give it up. Matt,
thanks, Paul.
Thank you. All the rest of the Matt Training as well. Thank you. Do appreciate it. Quick break back when more. Plenty to celebrate, including the great regional women who make this place great. More in a sec from Bendigo. Bendigo Heritage Attractions. They are the ones that help us out when it comes to the trams and who too at the Central Deborah Gold Mine. Now, the Shine Awards is this awesome thing that has been happening now for the best part of, I think, 7 years now. And it's our dear friends at Harvey Norman getting together with the Weekly Times, finding and celebrating women in regional Australia. Here's just some of those who deserve your attention. The Shine Awards make us proud to be Australian. Since 2017, the Shine Awards, presented by the Weekly Times and our friends at Harvey Norman, have been celebrating incredible women in our regions who make a difference in their communities. These awards look at a nominee's courage, dedication, passion, belief, spirit and grace to celebrate what makes our country great. So who are these wonderful women? Well, along with many others, these are just some of those that have been highlighted this year. Danny Mason-Kinder is nominated for her courage. She took great personal tragedy and turned it into something to help others. After the tragic loss of her 12-year-old daughter Billy, Danny channeled her grief into establishing the Be Kinder Foundation.
There was something about Billy, and you know, my dad always used to say that Billy, she was an old soul, you know, maybe she'd been here before. She just got people. She was really kind, really empathetic. She'd actually just got a scholarship to high school based on her writing ability, and she used to write poems and stories and forever had a book in her hand. And she'd often come to me and her dad and say, you know, I'd like to write a book, what shall I write about? So as you can imagine, after Billy died, it became a really big thing that she hadn't written her book. So we collected up all her poems and stories and her artworks, and we put them into a beautiful book which is called Hope. Hope was a keepsake for the family and a memory, and then what happened was we ended up selling over 8,000 copies, and then what happened was we had parents and people coming back to us saying that Billy's words had instigated conversations with their children that they didn't normally have.
The Be Kinder Foundation makes interactive wellbeing programs and workbooks using Billy's writings, helping children, especially in rural areas, cope with the challenges of things like bullying, loneliness and mental health issues.
We want to empower and inspire children to believe that they can make a difference. And you know, same with Billy. She's a 12-year-old schoolgirl just like them, and if Billy can make a difference, so can they. One little boy, he was using the workbook. He was in grade 3, and I asked him if he liked it, and he said, I really like it. He said, because every time we use it, then when we go in the playground, everyone is nice to each other.
Katrina Ogden is another fantastic example to all of us. She's nominated for her dedication. Katrina has been organising fundraisers through the Shearing for Kids with Cancer event for 10 years now.
It originally started back in 2014. One of our local families, their young daughter, who was 3 at the time, Laurie, she was diagnosed with a tumour on her kidney, and some spots in her lungs. So Laurie's auntie decided to do a fundraising event down there to raise some money, and my husband, along with some other shearers, decided to put their hands up for a day of shearing. And one of the local farmers here, Bill Barlow, brought the day, and it went from there. So then we started a little one there, and it's obviously just got bigger and bigger and bigger every year. We have raised a lot of money. We probably nearly raised probably closer to $600,000.
Kylie Dennis is nominated for her passion. With 14 years' experience as a police officer, Kylie uses her skills to identify and expose scammers. This makes sure that vulnerable Australians are not losing their hard-earned savings to these online predators.
In 2023, I received a phone call from my mum, and she had indicated that she was dating somebody, and I sort of looked at that photo and thought there was something sort of not right there, and so I did a bit of an investigation. I found out that she was actually a victim of a romance scam, and then I started looking into it and sort of realised that there was so much out there. I went online dating myself and created a fake profile, and then I identified that there were so many fake profiles within that online dating platform that I didn't think that anyone else was doing it. So then I went, well, what can I do to help victims and victims' families? So I created Two-Face Investigations.
It's a lot of work, but for Kylie, it's worth it because she's helping people.
It's okay to admit that you've been a victim of a scam. Let's talk about it. You know, make the phone call. In 5 minutes, we can have a chat about it. And that's sort of trying to continually educate. People are still at home not wanting to admit to the fact that maybe they could be a victim of a scam. So tomorrow is, how do I get those people to ring me? So it's just that continual, it's like just building a wall. I just put one more brick down, one more brick down.
There are so many strong and powerful women in our regions. The Shine Awards is the perfect way to showcase them
and share their inspiring stories to the next generation of women who will lead the world.
I say to anyone, grab a notepad, write everything down, and what's in your belly will be successful. Just keep going. If you've got that passion, you won't stop.
If using Billy's words and Billy's way of being, I can save one child, then I guess that's everything.
To keep going, I suppose, until we're not allowed to do it anymore. We really enjoy it. It is a lot of work to put for the day, but we all love it, and it's a great day.
Change starts with us, and I think we all can, and we all should be the solution. And these mental health statistics, it doesn't have to be this way. You know, if we all were a little kinder, spoke with more kindness, and actually acted and role modelled with kindness and empathy and compassion, I think our younger generation would have a better chance at, dealing with the world as it is today.
Every one of them is spectacular. Every one of them is about to be honoured. Penny Fowler is the boss of the Weekly Times, and she, along with our dear friend Katie Page and the good people of Harvey Norman, help judge who win the awards each and every year. And I'm pleased to say the wonderful Penny Fowler joins us now. Penny, can you believe 8 years since you and Katie Page got together with this fabulous idea to celebrate the women of regional Australia? Lovely to see you, and congratulations on the awards going into their 8th year.
Thank you so much, Paul. It's really lovely to see you too. I cannot believe 8 years. It's gone by so quickly. The Weekly Times and Harvey Norman, when Katie and I first got together and thought, what can we do to shine a light on rural and regional women around Australia? And I think it's been going 8 years. We've shone a light on, over 1,000 women from all over. And every year we just have these amazing stories about these amazing women who are making a difference in their communities.
What do you think sets the awards apart from others, particularly its focus, I suppose, on rural women? But what sets it apart?
Well, I really feel a lot of these women are the unsung heroes of their communities. I think, women are not necessarily recognised as much in rural and remote communities and regional communities, and I feel that they're always doing these amazing things behind the scenes, or they're overcoming adversity or tragedy, and they go through so much. And I think often in these communities, around regional Australia and rural Australia, women are the backbones of the communities, and they're sort of the silent achievers in some way. So I just think this has sort of really unearthed the whole of these amazing women and their stories, and what they're doing to make a difference. So I think that's what makes it different. And I also think utilising, the Weekly Times, that national footprint, with the help of the Australian and all of our news mastheads, to amplify all these stories, and then to have Harvey Norman and, Katie, who's an amazing promoter and supporter of women, and tell stories throughout the communities. I think it's really nice. And I also love the categories that we have. I think that's sort of unique too. We've got grace, belief, courage, passion, dedication. And for the last 4 years, we've had a youth winner. And some of these young people and things they're doing is incredible too.
Yeah, they're both inspiring and frightening at the same time, because this next wave of people coming through, they are, 10 foot tall and stronger and more confident than many of us would ever have dreamed of being. Give me an idea about some of the criteria that goes into this, because as always, the list is so impressive. This year, no different. What are some of the criteria about who you decide to recognise?
Well, I think what happens is we have a really amazing team at the Weekly Times who go out and get nominations, and we actually amplify that all around, including you. Thank you, Paul, and your show, Sky News, The Australian. And then they're under those different categories. And so what happens is people nominate and send in stories, and we go out and uncover the stories. And then we have a judging panel, and we sit around and we go through all these, and we try and work out, look, to be honest, they're all winners in my mind. All the finalists are winners. All the people are amazing. And so it's really difficult to sort out and actually work out who's the overall winner. And so we just go down, and if you look at, I think, some of the stories about people overcoming adversity, people whose children have died and they've gone on to make a difference, people who, like Sharon, I went in last year, she overcame adversity and she's got her own Indigenous food business. I mean, she's incredible. Emily Riggs from South Australia, the year before, she was a young girl who lost her mother and she's got her own wool brand. So I think what the criteria, there's no set criteria, I don't think, but it is people and women who are making a difference. But it's also, people who are making great successes in rural communities and regional communities in their businesses. So I think it's recognising these outstanding achievements of theirs.
What would be something that all of these women have in common? What's something that you would suggest is the commonality amongst all of the people who are up and about?
All the people up and about, I think all these women, well, I think they're all inspiring. I also think most of them, in fact, all of them that I've come across or had the pleasure of meeting are very humble and very gracious and they're just really devoted people. They're devoted to their families, and if they don't have their families, to their work, to their communities. And I really feel that that makes them different. So, I mean, obviously the other thing they all have in common is they're women. So I think...
The future is female, don't worry, I've got two daughters, you know it, go, fight, all of that.
Yes. So I sort of feel like that's sort of a bit of, but it is that in all these stories, and they always have these amazing stories too, I think. Yeah. And so whether they're, working for the Royal Flying Doctor Service, or they're starting their own business, or they're overcoming tragedy. And if you think of all the things that have been going on around the fires, the floods, all the natural disasters we've had over the last years too, I think these people, I just think they really, naturally, their instinct is to give back to their communities and make a difference.
You mentioned that there's, it's impossible, obviously, for everyone to end up as the ultimate winner, but all of them are winners for their recognition, but more importantly for what they do in their lives. What do you think the rest of us can take from these women's achievements? What's the sort of stuff that we should be learning from what these women are doing?
Well, I really feel what we should be learning is everyone can make a difference in whatever way they can. And so, there's a lot of people who, I think in life, giving back into your community, being part of your local community, helping others is something that we can all learn from all these women. And these women are exceptional and their stories are inspiring, but so are so many people's stories. And I think that it's just that being involved in your local community and really trying and giving back to your local community. I think particularly in rural and regional Australia, we sometimes, they don't get as much attention as they should. And so I feel like that's sort of what the real learning is for everybody. There are so many amazing people, and you can do whatever you do, whatever little bit you do to give back, I think really makes a difference.
Bloody oath. Penny, thank you so much. I love you. All the best for the holiday period. Congratulations to you, everyone at the Weekly Times. Of course, Katie Page and everyone at Harvey Norman. I love the Shine Awards. All the best, mate. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much, Paul.
All the best to Penny, to Katie, to their respective teams. Thank you so much to Harvey Norman. Of course, the reason we're able to celebrate all the different parts of the country is because of their support. Thank you to everyone who deals with us in these shows over at Harvey Norman. Thank you for supporting that wonderful Australian institution as well. Quick break, back with more. It's time to go deep and dark into a gold mine. We do so next in Bendigo, here on Paul Murray Live. The Central Debris gold mine here in Bendigo, you're able to come and have a look at it. Now, what is incredible, including where we are right now, is that you can still see all of the buildings, everything from the blacksmith all the way through to all different things that were part of the community that sent people down the mines for as long as it did. Thousands of tonnes of gold have come out of places like this and many more in this particular region. And rather than me banging on about it, let me show you. So gold and Bendigo, synonymous, but tell us about what's unique about the experience I'm about to have.
Well, we're going 61 metres underground, so it's about the same as a 22-storey building, which is a fair old dip down underground. We're heading into an original gold mine, operated for 15 years, from 1939 to 1954. So you can actually see what it was really like when the miners were experiencing it during our gold rush.
And way back then, how long was a shift when you were working on it?
8 hours. 8 hours underground, couldn't come up for any reason until the very completion of your shift.
All right, well, what are we about to see today?
We're going to see some drills. Okay, the hard work they had to get the gold out of the ground. We'll see some gold because there still is gold down there in the wall, which is really cool. We get to see the original shafts, where they had their lunch, the whole works.
But first, the coolest lift in Australia.
Okay, if you want to bend your knees a little bit, you can. If you want to let a little squeal.
You're building this up. I'm
just
worried
stand.
now.
Are you ready?
Yeah, go.
3, 2, 1. Well, Paul, welcome to the crib room.
This is beautiful. What a lunchroom.
This is the lunchroom.
To think of the big blokes smoking and eating a pasty that have sat here.
Having a great time. Not doing their hard work, eating some food like they should be. Got 30 minutes for lunch here at Central Deborah. Only time you could stop work all day.
How many blokes could they fit in here? It doesn't look like that many, but how could they?
They squeeze in pretty tight, okay? You could probably have 8 crews in here, which is about 16 blokes if you really wanted to.
16 massive units in here?
If they weren't sitting on the seats, they were sitting on the ground. As long as there wasn't a puddle, they were pretty happy just to stop working.
All up and down the mine there are these things obviously holding everything in place. And I've just asked, how big is the thing you got to bang into the wall? Answer, that big. How long is this?
6 foot.
6 foot, you've just got to bang it into the wall. And how much does each plate hold in place for people that are the tourists today, not the miners of yesterday?
Holding about 7 tonnes of rock in place per plate.
Gee whiz. Eureka! Or not really. That's fool's gold. You want to see real gold? Over here. Tell us what we're looking at now.
Righto, so we've got gold still in its original state still here in the quartz. Old timers never found this reef, that means I get to show it to you. Real cool. What we're looking at is the small yellow blobs there inside of the quartz. Doesn't look like very much. And this little cluster here, just below that gold label, about $1,500 worth of gold. Well, Paul, we advertise deep, dark and dirty, so we better experience the darkness. We'll turn these cap lamps off, just see how dark it is down here. Righto, Paul, rock down here really, really hard. Can't use pickaxes or anything like that. We need to use these big bad pneumatic drills. Each shift, mine would have to drill between 15 and 20 holes. Ooh. Each hole's taking about 10 to 15 minutes to drill, so you're using these drills for about 2 hours every time you come to work.
All right, time for me to earn my keep. Thank you so much. What a day.
Pleasure, Paul. Thanks for coming.
That was cool. All right, well, you can take the soft man's option. You've hardened me up. I'm taking the ladder.
Have fun.
Does anyone think that I actually took the ladder? You know there's no chance. Hugo and the team were great, as well as James over at the trams. Remember, it's the Bendigo Heritage Attractions that link all of it, and you can come and see this with your own eyes. Another thing while you're in Bendigo is to celebrate its connections with the Chinese community, including an artefact that links back to our federation. The UU1 Gardens here in Bendigo, a perfect symbol of a community that's been here for a long time. Now, for many people, you may not think about the Chinese community and Bendigo as being interlinked for a long time, but they have been. From the gold rushes of the 1800s all the way through to today. It's a vibrant community, but also it's a community that has gone from being an absolute outsider to now an absolute heart of a community. And one of the ways that they have integrated themselves with the community over the years is through cultural celebrations. There's a spectacular museum here that has everything from dragons from 1901 to the ones they parade each and every Easter.
It's all right. Oh, hello.
We're here with Hugo. He is the most passionate man about dragons in all of Bendigo. Lovely to see you.
Hello, how are you?
Hello. What an incredible collection. What are we looking at here?
Okay, so this is the Sun Lung Gallery at the Golden Dragon Museum. We've got 2 gallery spaces. Sun Lung is primarily where we keep our dragons, and you can see Da Gam Lung on the right in the background, and then Sun Lung on the left in the background. But because we're so pressed for space, we have all sorts of objects. We've got their regalia, their banners, their lions, and then some of our very wonderful collection, all in the one space. So we have the 3 imperial processional dragons and their full regalia from 1901 to the present day. So this is Lung, and Lung in Cantonese means dragon. He is from 1901. He is the oldest complete imperial processional dragon in the world. Now there are older elements around the world, and even closer to Bendigo, but this is the oldest complete imperial processional dragon. Lung, we have photos of being part of the parade or the parades in Australia's Federation in 1901. And we believe that he is the last remaining element from those parades.
You've got to come here, you've got to see it. To be in this room is phenomenal, and please meet this bloke. Good on you, Hugo. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Wow, that was awesome. Thank you to Hugo and everyone else at those museums. It's fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, here in Bendigo and everyone watching at home, a very special guest. Santa's here! Santa's here! And we'll have some fun. 2 big fat blokes with beards next on Paul Murray Live. Hey, Santa, give me a cuddle. Hey, Santa. Good to see you, Paul. Santa, I've been very naughty. Bendigo, we're here with Santa. Ho, ho, ho. Ho, ho, ho. Big fella. Now, of course, one of the things you get to do when you come here is to do a little bit of gold panning.
We do, Paul, and I've been doing this. Do you want me to show you how it's done?
Please.
Rightio. What we do, Paul, is you're putting a bit of dirt into your trough, into your pan, out of the trough, and you're going to swish this really fast, okay? And we're washing away the dirt, Paul. That's why you've got to keep it in the water. That's probably a bit fast, not like a washing machine.
All right, good.
Right? Yeah. And your gold is going to settle at the bottom. Is there any gold there, Paul?
There's no gold there,
No
Santa.
gold there. Let's have another go.
No idea. What am I looking here for,
Rightio.
Santa?
Here we go. We'll have another go. We ready?
Right. What are you going to do?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So we're swishing away.
Swish, swish, swish. Oh, hang on. What have you found there, Santa? You got there, Santa.
I think there might be some gold here, Paul.
Breaking news! Santa pays for everyone else's Christmas.
Hang on. Let's have a look, Paul.
Oh, hello.
Hang on. It's a bit hard to see in the light here.
Oh, here we go.
Let's have a look.
I'm worried about Santa's glasses now. What's going on?
Oh, we're fogging up here, Paul. Can we see it? Let's sift through, Paul. Here
Do I
we
need
go.
to help you, Santa? I will.
Here we go.
Where? Oh, hello.
Let's have a look.
Is that what I think it is?
Yeah, I think it is, Paul.
Goodness me.
Here we go.
Is that gold,
No,
Santa? No,
it's-
that's a stone.
That's
Santa.
a stone. That's a stone. Gee.
Santa. Okay, no, we're going to keep going.
Yeah, we're going to keep going.
That's all right. The Royal Report,
Yeah.
you're going to wait, okay? Because
Yep.
there's a chance.
Yep.
Right, there's still a chance at any moment now that
any
we're going to
moment.
find. Come
Yep.
on. Oh, we can do this here, Santa. I believe in you. I believe you. I don't know why we're focused on your pan, not mine, because this is random.
Here we go.
Okay, what about that one?
There we go.
That is gold, ladies and gentlemen, gold!
There we go. Now we've got to hand that back.
How did that happen?
We've got to hand that back, but that's how it's done.
Okay, all right. So
Got
we
to
give
hand
it back
that
to Santa.
Yes.
All right.
Well done, Paul.
Love you, Santa.
Well
Give it up
done.
for him. Well done.
Well
Thank you to
done.
everyone here in the
Ho,
Gold
ho,
Coast.
ho.
Ho, ho.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. God love you, Santa. All right, that is our show from Bendigo. That is our show when it comes to our town for the year. I want to thank everyone involved in our production. Their names won't mean an awful lot to you, but they mean everything to me. Can you give a round of applause to the people who make all of this happen? Thank you to James and to Tom, who's helped us out behind the scenes, of course, with our normal Paul Murray Live all year. Thank you to Harvey Norman. Without you, without your focus and your help each and every month, this show is impossible. And the most important thing I always have to say, and don't worry, we're around for another couple of weeks with the normal show, please see Australia. When you get a chance this summer, get in the car, point it in the direction, and just 1 hour this way, 2 hours that way, go to a different state, go to a place you haven't been for a while, and the first place on your list, Bendigo, all right? Bendigo first. Mention my name and pay full price. That's our show from Bendigo. That's Our Town. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow night from the Man Cave for plenty more Paul Murray Live. You can always send me an email to paul@skynews.com.au. Good night from Bendigo. Santa!